Hello, my name is Barbara Friesen. I'm a grief coach and a Reiki therapist. And in this video, we're going to talk about grief and specifically 5 myths about grief that may be holding you back from moving through the grieving process and onto healing. I'm also someone who's experienced a major loss of a family member in the last few years, and so I'm intimately familiar with the grieving process. I call this series Grief Out of the Box because we're going to look at some of our assumptions and beliefs and mindsets about grief that you might not even be aware of. And I think we have to dig into the box to figure out what they are. So at the end of this video, you'll have the better understanding, hopefully, of the importance of the grieving process and be able to look at some of your own beliefs and assumptions about grief. So, where to start when dealing with our assumptions about grief? And the first myth I pulled out of the box is that there's a formula to follow that will make it easier in the grieving process. And what I've learned is that grief doesn't follow a formula and it doesn't follow specific stages. So you don't go through, for example, Kubler-Ross's stages of grief, denial through acceptance, and come out the other side and hit the reset button and continue on with your life. The truth is that grief is very personal and grief will change you. Everyone's grief is unique to them. And you cannot compare your grief with anyone else's. It doesn't matter what your loss is. It could be the loss of a family member, it could be loss of a partner through divorce or through death. It could be a major transition in your life. It could be a major illness in your life. It really doesn't matter. The grief that you're experiencing right now is the worst grief because it's yours and it hurts right now. Myth number 2 that I pulled out of the box is that it's important to get on with life as quickly as possible. The truth is that grief is messy and you can't get through it by picking up where you left off as quickly as possible. It just doesn't work that way. We live in an impatient culture. We don't give people the time they need to get through the grieving process. We expect people to move on quickly and quietly. And we call this strength. But we pay a big price for moving people on too quickly or for moving ourselves on too quickly. Unresolved grief leads to health problems, mental health problems such as anxiety, depression, substance abuse, relationship problems, isolation, and more. And there's lots of that in our culture. The truth is, most of us do not get over our grief. It's always with us, but we can move forward. So what's the difference? If you've lost a loved one, you don't want to ever forget them. You don't want other people to forget them. You want to always honor them. So what actually happens is that we learn to build a life around our grief. It's always there, but we learn to draw bigger and bigger circles around our grief so that over time, the new life we build becomes larger than our grief. It happens slowly. It's not necessarily smooth or consistent, but over time, there is a gradual shift and your new life becomes larger than your grief. Myth number 3 is that joy and pain cannot exist together. As we know, grief is painful, and we have to experience this pain, but we can reduce our suffering. So what's the difference? The way I look at it, grief is pain, But suffering is being stuck in the pain, and we can reduce our suffering. Your grief is always there. You learn to walk with it over time without being engulfed by it. And that creates space for you to have other experiences and other emotions. Eventually, we experience more periods of happiness than pain, but the sadness of our loss is always there. Some people ask, what if I don't recover? And are there some griefs that are so difficult that you never get over it? I don't think so. There's always a way forward. If you get stuck in your pain, a grief coach or therapist can help you move forward and reduce your suffering. It's definitely okay to ask for help. Grief can be really, really difficult, and it's easy to get stuck. Myth number 4 is grief just takes time, and it's important to keep busy. The truth is that time does not heal you. It's like saying, if I really need to get to Toronto from Vancouver, maybe if I just wait here, I'll get there, just with the passing of time. It doesn't happen that way. Waiting just isn't enough. And healing needs to be intentional. It takes steps, it takes a plan, and yes, it takes time, but time is not enough. Keeping busy doesn't heal you either. We live in a culture that honors busyness. If you're busier than you used to be before your loss, chances are you're using distraction as a way of dealing with your grief. And in our culture, it's really easy to be distracted. Myth number 5. People move on and you're left alone with your grief. The truth is that grievers can feel isolated and abandoned by friends and family. People worry that they'll upset the grieving person if they talk about the loss. But in my experience, grievers want to talk about the loss, especially with people who knew the person who's passed. And the flip side is that many people want to be supportive, they just don't know how. So if you're grieving, you need to stay connected to at least some people. You may not know how anyone can help you. That's okay. But you'll feel better and less isolated if you allow them into your world. It's okay to reach out. Sometimes people are just waiting and they don't know how to help you. When a grieving person feels that someone hears and understands their pain, it reduces their suffering and helps them to feel connected. And this is really, really important. If you know someone who's grieving, reach out. It's okay to let them know that you don't know how to help, but let them know that you're there for them. Thank you for watching. In the next series, I'll take you through the 5 essentials you need to create a grief toolbox that will really help you through the grieving process. If you enjoyed this video, please like and leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. And there's a link to resources below. Thanks for your time. Bye for now.